You know, we always think about hormones and genetics when it comes to our periods. But what if I told you your address plays a huge role? It sounds kind of crazy, right? But today, we're digging into some fascinating user data that shows a real connection between where you live and your menstrual health.
So let's just ask it straight up. Can your zip code really affect your cycle? I know, it sounds a little wild, but when you look at the lifestyle patterns that pop up on the East Coast versus the West Coast, well, the data suggests there's a powerful link there, for sure.
All right, here's the game plan. First, we'll talk about this whole coastal period divide. Then we'll get into the hustle versus chill lifestyles, what you're eating, who you're talking to, and finally, some real advice you can actually use.
All right, let's jump right in. The coastal period divide. Now, this whole idea comes from looking at massive amounts of user-reported data and seeing these two totally different ways people approach their health and wellness.
So on one side, you've got the East Coast hustle. You know the vibe. It's fast-paced, high stress, all about efficiency. And then you've got the West Coast chill. It's much more laid back, right? All about wellness, community, finding that balance. And look, these aren't just stereotypes. They're really useful frameworks for understanding the different pressures people are under.
Okay, so how does this actually affect your body? Let's talk about lifestyle. Because the day-to-day pace you live at, it has a huge direct impact on your stress, which in turn messes with your hormones. And this is where the data gets really interesting. We see way more reports of irregular cycles from our East Coast users. And it makes sense, right? That chronic stress from demanding jobs and long commutes jacks up your cortisol. And here's the kicker. Cortisol can totally throw off your progesterone, which is essential for a regular period. But on the flip side, our West Coast users who are logging things like yoga and mindfulness, well, they're also logging way fewer stress-related symptoms.
So you can see how this leads to totally different ways of dealing with symptoms. That East Coast efficiency mindset, it's all about the quick fix. Grab some over-the-counter pain meds so you could just power through the day. The West Coast approach, though, is way more holistic. They're looking for a long-term balance, trying things like herbal teas and acupuncture.
But hey, it's not just about stress, right? What you're putting in your body and how you're moving it, those are absolute game changers. So let's talk about food and fitness. I mean, the diets are like night and day. That East Coast hustle means a lot of grab-and-go food. We're talking bagels, deli sandwiches, convenient stuff. And in the user logs, we see a clear link between that and more bloating and cramps. But on the West Coast, where the focus on fresh, organic foods, think kale salads, avocado toast, the data shows users reporting much steadier energy levels. Pretty telling, huh?
And we see the exact same split when it comes to workouts. East Coasters tend to love those structured, high-intensity classes, like HIIT or spin, to get that quick, powerful endorphin rush. But that intensity can sometimes backfire and just make you feel more tired. Meanwhile, West Coasters seem to gravitate towards more restorative stuff, hiking, Pilates, beach yoga, and the data shows that's super effective for managing PMS mood swings.
Okay, so we've covered the physical stuff, but what about your support system? You know, the people and the tech you lean on. It plays a massive role. And, you probably guessed it, the coasts handle this differently too.
On the East Coast, it's often about efficiency and privacy, so support tends to be digital. Online forums, telehealth appointments you can squeeze into a packed day. But on the West Coast, there's a huge emphasis on in-person community. Think wellness retreats, group yoga classes, and just having more open chats about this stuff.
This even changes how people use technology. I mean, everyone's using tracking apps now, right? But the goals are different. East Coast users are all about efficiency, using the app to cram health into a busy schedule. West Coast users, they're more likely to use wearables to track mindfulness data, kind of blending that tech with a more holistic vibe.
Okay, so we've seen all these comparisons. That's great, but what does it mean for you? Let's get practical and talk about how you can use all this no matter where you live. We'll look at a couple of real-world examples.
All right, first up, we've got a question from Sarah in NYC, and this is such a classic East Coast problem. She's got this super demanding job, and she's asking, how can I manage my period pain without just popping pills all day?
So for Sarah, the answer isn't a huge lifestyle overhaul. It's about micro-dosing wellness, just sneaking in tiny, manageable habits. We're talking super short breaks for some deep breathing, maybe using your app to ping you to drink water, or even just doing a few stretches at your desk. It sounds small, but it can make a world of difference when you have zero time.
Okay, now let's head over to the West Coast. We've got Mia in LA.
She loves being active, loves hiking, but she says cramps are totally ruining her plans to get outdoors. What can she do?
For Mia, it's all about blending her awesome lifestyle with some smart planning. So maybe she starts eating more anti-inflammatory foods like turmeric or salmon before a big hike. She could also use her app's AI to get a heads up on when pain might peak. That way, she can plan her toughest hikes around her cycle and maybe choose something a little more low impact on those really rough days.
So, after looking at everything, stress, food, community, tech, what's the big takeaway here? Let's be really clear about this. The point is not that one coast is better than the other. This isn't a competition. The real goal is self-awareness. It's about understanding how your unique environment, your job, your friends, your daily routine, is impacting your body. Because once you see those connections, you can start to cherry-pick strategies from either coast to build an approach to your health that is completely personalized for you.
So I want to leave you with a question. Now that you've seen the data and you've seen these two totally different approaches, what's one thing, just one little habit, that you think would benefit you the most? Maybe it's an East Coast efficiency hack, or maybe it's a West Coast chill-out strategy. What could you try this month?